Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. This is video 2 in the Guitar Techniques series that I'm currently doing. In video 1, we looked at bending notes, and in this video, we're going to be jumping up in skill level quite a bit and looking at legato. Now, the only reason why we're doing this is because I've had a couple of requests for this, so I'll be going back and forwards with different sort of skill levels. This is not going to be a beginner's level up to advanced. It's going to be all over the place. Now, if you want to see someone that can really play legato guitar really well, go and have a look at Tom Quayle's channel. Tom is like the master of this technique, and every time I watch him, I just think I'm just a beginner. But what I'm going to do today is to break it down to the basics and show you how I practice legato. Now, the first tip for playing legato is to use 3-note per string scales. Now, if I play an A minor scale as I would normally play it, not using a 3-note per string technique, I'll play like this. Now, with a 3-note per string technique, I'm going to be starting from the 3rd fret on the E string, which is a G, and if I pick every note, the term legato comes from joined up notes. So as opposed to playing staccato, which is short notes, legato is like this. So as you can hear, the notes flow into each other. With this technique, I want to make it sound like each note is the same volume, but I'm only going to be picking once per string. Move on to the next string. Next string. Next string. Next string. And next string. So that's hammering on. Now we also need to do exactly the same thing with pull-offs. So we want to try and get it so every single note is the same velocity. Now, it's all well and good to be able to play legato fast, because when you're playing fast, a lot of the notes get sort of blended into each other and you can't hear the definition. If you really want to improve your technique for this, you've got to slow it down and use a metronome. So if I put on a metronome at 120 BPM, I'm going to play quarter notes first. Then 8th notes. Then 16th notes. So the pattern I'm going to teach you is 4th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret on the G string, all hammered on, then 5th fret, 6th fret, and then 8th fret on the B string. So that together sounds like this. And then we're going to pull off all the notes to go back to the 4th fret on the G string. So that's that phrase fast. We're going to play that phrase again, but we're going to go up to the E string, which is 5, 7, 8 on the E string. Then we're going to pull off to go back to the 5th fret on the B string. So the whole phrase so far sounds like this. And then you can play variations of that and just move it around. If you do want to go even lower, you can just follow the phrase on the lower strings. And that to me is where it sounds nice. If you can add a legato phrase in the middle or at the beginning of a phrase and then use a different technique, say like a normal picking technique, it can really make something sound a little bit more interesting. Things start to get a little bit trickier and easier at the same time when you start to add gain onto your guitar signal. Now, they get easier because you need less effort to get the same note out of it, but also with extra overdrive produces extra noise. So what I mean is, if I don't mute the strings, you get this sort of sound out of it. All the other strings are ringing and it becomes even more noticeable because I'm using overdrive. So what you need to do is to mute your lower strings, or the strings you're not playing, with the palm of your hand, and also the higher strings with this part, the fleshy part of your finger. So it sounds much more complicated than it is, and with a little bit of practice, it does actually just become sort of second nature. Let me just demonstrate that. So the palm of my hand is going to be on the lower strings. Now I'm going to mute the strings and also play the strings at the same time. So you get this sort of sound out of it. Now, if I want to let the strings ring out, but also want to mute the other strings, as I said, I need to mute the higher strings with the fleshy part of my hand, but also after I played the low string, when I shift to the next string, I need to mute that string with the palm of my hand. And it sounds like this. And if I go through the other strings, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. I really hope you guys got something out of that. If you've got any other ideas for techniques that you'd like to learn, leave a little comment in the comments below and I'll get onto that. I'm Paul from the Studio Rats and I'll see you next time. Cheers.